The Green Bay Packers lost again in Week 8, falling to the Buffalo Bills 27-17. They're now 3-5 on the year. And the Packers are 3.5 games back of the Minnesota Vikings, who they lost to in Week 1 in the race for the NFC North crown. And look, if things sound bad for the Packers, because they are. If you check out 538, the Packers are being given a 17% chance to make the playoffs. They are at a 4% chance to rally and win the division. And yes, those Vikings clear out in front with a 93% chance per 538 to take home the divisional crown. So even if the Packers find a way to the playoffs, they will likely be on the road. Now, granted, the NFC is not all that intimidating. And if the Packers make the playoffs, home or away, they will have a chance against anybody they face. But that's assuming they start playing well. That is assuming they start playing like the team that over the past 2 seasons has been the number 1 seed in each of those campaigns in the NFC. Now, the playoffs did not go the way the Packers wanted in those years, losing to the Buccaneers in the 2020 NFC title game at Lambeau, and then last season being stunned by the 49ers in the divisional round. But right now, Green Bay would take anybody, anywhere, anytime in the divisional round, because currently the Packers aren't even in the NFC playoff picture. At 3-5, barely hanging on via tiebreaker to second place in the really, really average NFC North alongside the Bears, only comfortably ahead of the Lions. And things are not going to get any easier here for the Packers. Yes, a road game coming up at Detroit. That should be a win. If it's not, it's time to sound every alarm bell in Wisconsin. But after that, home to Dallas, a 6-2 team at the moment. Home to Tennessee, a 5-2 team at the moment. That's on a Thursday night. And then at Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football. Oh, yeah, right. The Eagles, they're 7-0. They're the only undefeated team in football. This is not going to be a situation where Green Bay gets fat on an easy schedule. Because, by the way, even after those games, still another game with the Vikings, a game against the Dolphins, who look like a playoff team in the AFC, and that game on the road. Also, by the way, the Rams on a Monday night in Week 15. That's at home, and the Rams have struggled as much as the Packers have this year, but they're the Super Bowl champions for a reason. So there's not a lot of easy wins on the schedule. Yes, Detroit does loom twice. You look at the Bears in Week 13, say, okay, that's it. Those are the 3 quote-unquote easy games on the docket. This is not going to be the Packers going, yeah, we're 3-5, but in the last 9 games, there's a whole bunch of easy W's. There's not. There's not at all. The Packers are going to have to earn this, and it's going to start with Aaron Rodgers. Look, Rodgers is not the biggest problem on the team. The lack of receiving weapons, that's a huge problem. The defense, playing soft zone despite having a dominant first-round corner in Jair Alexander, another first-round corner in Eric Stokes, another quality corner in Rasul Douglas, and the Packers, they will not play man coverage very often. Not under Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator there in Green Bay. He doesn't like to play that way. And so the Packers are in this constant soft zone look. It is getting shredded. And against Buffalo, actually wasn't too bad. Forced a couple of interceptions from Josh Allen, who barely completed half of his passes. But the Bills had 24 points by halftime. They coasted the rest of the way. They were never in danger, winning by 10. Could have won by 20 if they had pushed the issue. Green Bay needs to play better defensively. They need to switch some things up. But the reality of it is Rodgers also has to be much better. Before 2 drives in the fourth quarter against Buffalo, when the game was decided, Rodgers had thrown for 74 yards in the game. 74. You're not beating anybody with 74 yards passing before the game is well in hand for the opposition. And certainly you're not beating anybody who's good. And again, Green Bay is going to see a bunch of teams that are good to great. The Packers are not going to be able to get a game where Rodgers throws for $170 and they win. Yes, the running game, it was encouraging. Over 200 yards on the ground against the Bills. The Bills are a very good run defense. That's great. Rely on Aaron Jones. Rely on A.J. Dillon. You'd be crazy not to. But this also comes into play when you look at the other truth here. Green Bay has to be able to throw the ball better. There was only one player on the Packers on Sunday night who had multiple receptions and was a receiver, Romeo Doubs. He was it. Aaron Jones, a running back, he had multiple receptions. So did Robert Tonyan at tight end. But as far as receivers go, yeah, rookie Romeo Doubs, that mid-round pick out of Nevada, he was it. He was all the offense Green Bay could muster on the outside. Now, look, Lazard injured, Cobb injured, Watkins ineffective, Watson left injured in the first quarter with a concussion. Everybody understands that the Packers are beat up, missing a million pieces. And of course, missing the biggest piece, which was traded away this offseason with Davante Adams. And that's where I want to go last with this. The Packers on the field, they deserve a lot of the blame. They're not executing. They're not playing up to standard. The coaching staff, you could argue, deserves some blame. Play calling's been weird. Defensively, just went over it. Too much zone, way too much zone. Should be playing more man. But general manager Brian Gutekunst, he also deserves blame here. This is a team that knew it had a huge problem at receiver. That knew after trading Davante Adams, there was nobody. There was nobody who was a number one type target. And the Packers sat on their hands and they did absolutely nothing. Nothing. Sammy Watkins, nice player at one point. He's a guy. And the Packers had 2 first-round picks. Nothing. Took 2 defensive players in Quay Walker and Devondre Wyatt. It's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. And Gutekunst should have known that. Instead, they waited to the second round to take Christian Watson. Now, it looks like they got a pretty good player in Dobbs in the mid-round, but it's not enough when you have Rodgers at the very end of his career. Let's be realistic. Maybe a couple years left, 2 to 3 years left, max. This is a time to go all in to try to win one more Super Bowl. The Packers didn't do that. And now you're paying the price. Green Bay is 3-5, and it's a long climb back to the playoff picture. Look, luckily for the Packers, the NFC, not good. That is the one thing Green Bay can feel good about. The NFC, if you get the 9 wins, you're probably getting in. And for the Packers to get the 9 wins, look, it's probably going to have to be 3 wins at minimum in the division with Chicago and Detroit twice. And then you start looking at, hey, all right, Tennessee at home. Yes, the Titans are 5-2, but it's a very winnable game. Ryan Tannehill is not scaring anybody. Maybe you get the Vikings week 17 at home. Maybe you can get some revenge there and avenge that week 1 loss. And then try to find one other win. Dallas at home. Somehow beat Philly on the road. The Rams at home. That's a very winnable game. At Miami, can you go out there and outplay the Dolphins? If Green Bay gets to 9, it probably makes the playoffs. But it's going to take 9, and the way the Packers have played, it's really hard to see without major improvement them going 6-3. That is going to be a steep climb, a possible one, but a steep climb for a team that is used to being a contender year in and year out, and right now is playing like anything but.